Why doesn't it feel like Easter? This is Easter Monday. And you may be wondering why I'm giving a reflection that feels like a Holy Saturday reflection. There are many people around the world who might be feeling like it's Holy Saturday more than Easter Monday. They're just not feeling the victorious celebration of an Easter Sunday. Turbulence in political, economic, business, governmental, and legal circles this Easter season, along with international conflict, may leave people feeling more like it's Good Friday or Holy Saturday than it is Easter Monday. We're in the midst of a national election. Some people have already voted in the advanced polls. The main election date is a few days away. So there are people who are in that Holy Saturday waiting period now, and it's due to political reasons. Picture the first Holy Saturday. That Saturday fell right after Good Friday and just before Easter Sunday. The disciples knew their teacher, their friend, their rabbi was detained by the religious and political authorities, was convicted in a biased trial, sentenced to death, and crucified. They were probably struggling with loss, those waves of grief, anger, shame, and fear. The disciples did have reasons to fear, you know. Their leader had been crucified, and they may not have been certain that the Romans were going to stop with just the crucifixion of Jesus. They were hiding, some of them waiting for the other shoe to drop. We'll keep that setting in mind as we read through the scriptures. Lamentations 3, verses 1 to 9. The title in my Bible says, The Voice of a Suffering Individual. I am one who has known of affliction under the rod of God's anger, one whom he has driven and forced to walk into darkness, not in light. Against me alone he turns his hand again and again all day. He has worn away my flesh and my skin. He has broken my bones. He has besieged me all around with poverty and hardship. He has left me to dwell in dark places like the long dead. He's hemmed me in with no escape, weighed me down with chains. Even when I cry for help, he stops my prayer. He has hemmed me in ways fitted with stones and made my paths crooked. In my Bible, that title, The Voice of a Suffering Individual, in Lamentations 3, is important for us to remember. It's kind of a common reaction to those Good Friday tragedies and the Holy Saturday moments. God's anger is seen as some kind of punishment. The cause of feeling like one is bound in chains and locked in a place as dark as a grave. The pain that we feel in life is reflected in the scriptures. The people who wrote portions of the Bible that we read every year in church were real people. They lived real lives. They felt the same kind of emotions that we feel. And biblical narratives are for those people who have wounds and scars from oppression and from real life. Psalm 31, verses 2 to 4, and then verse 15. In you, Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your righteousness, deliver me. Incline your ear to me. Make haste to rescue me. Be my rock of refuge, a stronghold to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. For your name's sake, lead me and guide me. Moving down to verse 15. But I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My destiny is in your hands. Rescue me from my enemies, from the hands of my pursuers. This is a psalm, a crying out to God for deliverance from shame, from danger. Self-blame and shame are natural reactions to tragic events that throw us into Holy Saturday moments and periods of life. Sadly, we may look to the person who's closest to us, to ourselves, and blame ourselves. After Good Friday moments in life, many people call out to God for help, for deliverance. There are times when God helps deliver us from the self-condemnation and shame that follows brutal experiences. Moving to Exodus 14, verses 10 to 11. And then what I'm going to do is, after we're done reading those verses, I'm going to kind of give you a Reader's Digest version of this story, condensed a bit. Now, Pharaoh was near when the Israelites looked up and saw that the Egyptians had set out after them. Greatly frightened, the Israelites cried to the Lord. To Moses they said, were there no burial places in Egypt, that you brought us to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Skipping down now to verse 19. The angel of God who'd been leading Israel's army now moved and went around behind them. And the cloud column moving from the front of them took its place behind them. So it came between them and the Egyptian army. And when it became dark, the cloud illuminated the night, so that the rival camp could not come any closer together all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. And the Lord drove back the sea with a strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry ground. The waters were split, so the Israelites entered into the midst of the sea on dry ground, with the water wall to their left and to their right. The Egyptians followed in pursuit after them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen into the midst of the sea. Moving to verse 26. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may flow back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and their horsemen. So Moses stretched his hand back out over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal flow. As the water flowed back, it covered the chariots and the horsemen. Of all Pharaoh's army which had followed the Israelites into the sea, not one escaped. But the Israelites had walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea, with the water as a wall to their right and their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel on that day from the power of Egypt. When Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the seashore and saw the great power the Lord had shown against Egypt, the people feared the Lord. They believed in the Lord and in Moses, his servant. There was tension for the children of Israel on that Holy Saturday moment, that moment when they stood between the sea and the advancing army of Egypt. They panicked as they waited for the other shoe to drop. For over 6 years, I worked in the lower floor, the main floor of a 2-story building. There were offices on one floor, and above there were residences, apartments. Because our office was often open at night, there were times you could hear the person above us getting ready for bed, and you could hear this work boot hit the floor. And a little later, you hear the second one drop to the floor. One of my colleagues used to say something to the effect of, "And the second shoe," after he heard the first shoe hit the floor. He kind of wanted to get that second shoe dropping moment over. The waiting period between the first shoe dropping and the second is a tiny sense of a Holy Saturday waiting time. There are many times when we wait for that second shoe to drop. The time between when the PA announcement in school says you're to go to the principal's office and when you learn why the principal wanted to see you. That time that you had to wait after asking this person you really liked out. The time after you got a pink slip. Those days between when you applied for a job and when you received a call for an interview. That time when you held your breath after you proposed. The time between when tariffs were announced and when they're supposed to take effect. That in-between time when legislation has been introduced that will either extend your human rights or move to curtail them. That time between when you came out to family or work colleagues, when you waited for a response. That time after you got a phone call from the doctor's office. And that big gap of time between when you have an appointment with the oncologist and receive the news about the biopsy that took place. Holy Saturday is a waiting time, and a time when it appears to the world like really nothing is happening. In the Exodus narrative, the Israelites celebrate after God delivers them following a Holy Saturday moment. The water of life may appear to be stationary, to be not moving, but there are times when it flows very, very deep. On Holy Saturday, it looked like Jesus Christ was doing nothing. The Apostles' Creed says Jesus was crucified and died, he descended into hell, and rose again. 1 Peter 3:19 gives us a sense that Christ preached the good news to those who were imprisoned in hell. If your life feels like it's stuck on a Holy Saturday moment, it does not necessarily mean that nothing is happening.